I want to get back to the illegal immigration issue. I've done a lot of studying about how Arizona set up their laws with regard to it. Would we be willing to sign on with Arizona in the way that the illegal immigration is set up out there?
I will let you know I'm one of the state senators. Actually, thanks to alphabetically, Alabama's in the front and my name's a B. After the amicus brief for the state legislators from across the country, I'm the second name on there. I fully support what they're doing. And again, it's a states' rights issue. Let them deal with their problem the way they need to, because the federal government has failed them. But I do think that we need to look at something very, very similar for the state of Alabama.
I would sign on to that also.
Thank you, because I really admire Governor Brewer for taking the heat that she's taken from the meeting. It is absolutely incredible. And the second question I had was, Acorn did play a major role in our votes around here. We have a huge chapter here of Acorn, even though people don't know about it. And what could be done to keep the voter fraud down, to make sure that the right things are done at the polls?
I don't know what law the state could consider for that, but let me tell you some of the good news coming out of Montgomery. I had a friend who called me today from the Secretary of State's office. There's a lot of people registering in Alabama. I mean hundreds. And most of them look like you and I. And I don't know what's caused it, but there is a substantial number of people registering in this state, and hopefully they're conservatives.
One of the things that we have to do is, we tried to pass a few years ago voter ID, picture ID, and we've got this cockamamie scheme now where you can bring in a couple power bills and all this kind of stuff. You can't cash a check, you can't rent a movie, you can't even go through the line at Walmart without your ID, but you can go vote. There's a great cartoon about Arizona too. It's got the guy at all these places having to show his ID, and then the Arizona trooper pulls him over and he says, "Well, you're profiling me." So we've got to pass a picture ID. I was talking to a candidate. Because you do realize Alabama law allows the person sitting at the booth to just say they know you. If all else fails, they vouch for you. Talked to a candidate in South Alabama who says what happens in his area. We've had 2 elections stolen there. They put up a bus and they vote multiple times in multiple places. And I've done some poll watching in that area, and you're talking about some places that you drive miles down a dirt road. It's a little building. There may only be 300 votes there, and 2 folks are sitting there. And if I'm not there, they say, "Well, Joe is my favorite person. Joe, he would have voted this way." So they can mark off Joe's name and scroll something on there and
They have a thing that says vote early and vote often.
It's the Alabama way.
I asked this question of Dr. Bentley, or actually Marcello asked this question of Dr. Bentley during the first gubernatorial debate coming up about a year ago. And that had to do with the creation of State Bank. The state of North Dakota in 1919 created the Bank of North Dakota. And this is a fiat currency banking system, and they lend to the citizens in North Dakota. They currently have a balanced budget. They don't have any state income tax, and they don't have any state sales tax. So the question is...
And they avoid the National Reserve, right? Something like that, the Federal Reserve? I've just recently learned about this, so I know what you're talking about.
Have you read The Creature from Jekyll Island by Ed Griffin?
Well, I'm not a big Federal Reserve fan, if that's what you want to know.
Well, if you want, it's very educational. I've got a few, so you can have one tonight. But the question is, would you at least create an exploratory committee into the feasibility of developing a Bank of Alabama, which would provide funds for the citizens of Alabama, and the interest, instead of going to, the banksters, would go back into the general fund and help the citizens of Alabama.
You may not believe it, but a few of us have had some discussions on something very similar to that. I haven't spoken with Robert or Dr. Bentley about it. About that time in the spring, I had talked to Tim James a little bit about it. I think it's something we should definitely consider trying to, build some independence into the state is something that would be good for all of us. And, I can't say that's going to happen straight out of the chute because some people can think you're conspiracy theorists, but I think I would much rather do that with our money. I wish we were doing that with the Oil and Gas Trust Fund money instead of doing this $1 billion road bond deal for the Lowell Barron Pass.
Okay, it's 8:30. Now, we said that this was going to go to 9 o'clock, but the room has started to empty out. These gentlemen have been on their feet for about an hour and almost an hour and a half. We only have a couple of more questioners here. I'm going to leave it up to these gentlemen if they want to go through the other half hour and take whatever questions come, or it's up to you, gentlemen.
I'll just answer more quickly and quit rambling and we'll get through.
Pastor, this is the first time to be here. I didn't intend to say anything, but Dr. Bentley is going to be here in this room Saturday morning at the Mid-Alabama Republican Club speaking. And the other thing, talking about poll watchers, the Republican Party is trying to get up a list of volunteers as poll watchers on election day.
That's a great thing to do. People ought to get involved, but again, we need to go. We have more than enough. We need to send some people some other places.
I can give you a phone number if anybody wants to volunteer. Thank you very much.
I'm sure you guys know obviously about this. I know you fell up behind, but there's a big push up to 2014 of basically students reading across the board on 100% grade level. Within the state that we live in, I mean, you have definitely in many of our systems a lack of parental support. You have a large amount of immigration that's coming in where immigrant students that they may be here legally or illegally are only exempted from being able to take the reading portion of that test only one time. A lot of times you have students that can't even hardly speak any English, but we expect them from the state level to take the test. All of this, of course, affects the scores of how the students do in those